2018 Dacia Duster SUV Review. The good points of Dacia Duster SUV. Fantastic value, both cash and PCP finance. Practical, nicely designed interior. Pleasant drive and automobile with slick gearbox. Well equipped for your price. Small but offers appealingly boxy SUV stance. The bad points of Dacia Duster SUV. More road noise than pricier rivals. Ride may well be more settled. Rear seats don't fold flat. Diesel models comparatively pricey. Uncertainty over petrol automatic option. The Dacia Duster will be the UK's cheapest SUV, but despite the fact that you really shouldn't feel shortchanged here, even though the entry-level access version is ultra-basic. That stripped-out model implies that prices start below £10,000, but more to the point, PCP finance pricing is even more impressive. At launch you can find a Duster for less than £150 a month even with a first deposit of about £600 with a 3-year, 6,000 mile-per-year contract. That's far a lot less than the Suzuki Vitara, Cetica and Kia Soul would run you. In the cash and finance terms, these are hardly bad value machines. Even far smaller crossovers would still cost you much more. Don't think this Dacia just low pricing to provide. The business claims that it's vastly improved comfort, refinement plus the feeling of quality. And this isn't exaggeration. Sit inside so you'd undoubtedly vastly overestimate just how much the Duster costs. New Dacia Duster, not just cheap but value. As an outcome, the Duster is not merely one from the cheapest cars you should buy, but moreover it really is on the list of best value, as you grow a surprising amount for that money. Better still, its boxy but streamlined styling is appealing inside metal, its enjoyable drive in automobile and the interior is smart and clearly presented. So, this is not simply a car you'd buy due to the low price, but given it appeals in its own right. That's quite an achievement on an off-roader that amounted to well under £17,000 even its costliest incarnation. Top cars for £100 month. Watch more here. Despite looking much like its predecessor, every panel is completely passing on a more modern, upmarket style than before. Adding to that impression, the Duster is obtainable with kit which includes never been available with a Dacia before, too, including keyless entry, climate control, a parking camera system and automatic headlights. One petrol then one diesel engine available, 4-wheel drive optional. Duster buyers can select between a 115 horsepower 1.6-liter petrol engine along with a 115 horsepower 1.5-liter diesel. Both are only obtainable with a manual gearbox initially, which has a 4-wheel drive option to the petrol. Additional engines, including an even more powerful turbocharged 1.2-liter petrol, further 4-wheel drive versions as well as an automatic gearbox should get to a later stage. As for specifications, 4 trims are offered, varying from Super Sport and to your top version that has kit you'd expect in much more expensive machinery. New Dacia Duster accessible in 4 trim levels. As along with other Dacia models, the Duster is obtainable in extremely basic access form. This costs just £9,995 more than to the previous version, though Dacia claims it gives you lower like-for-like PCP finance costs, so that it is extremely affordable for many who don't have lots of cash inside bank. Available simply with the 1.6-liter petrol engine, the Access version does without AC, a radio and speakers, and thus many drivers would want to pay the additional to boost to essential trim. This adds niceties including air conditioning, radio, Bluetooth and split folding rear seat, making it a lot more appealing for the majority of drivers. A similar price hike goes up to comfort specification, which gains alloy wheels, a touchscreen multimedia system with sat-nav and reversing camera with parking sensors. Range-topping prestige trim, meanwhile, includes larger 17-inch alloy wheels, partial leather seats, climate control and parking cameras for easier maneuvering. Rock bottom PCP finance costs. You'd expect a vehicle with low cash prices to make available affordable finance, though the Duster's PCP finance is extremely strong value. While a sub-£10,000 Citroën C1 could easily amount to well over £210 a month, the Duster's access is only £129 every month with identical contract terms, 36 monthly obligations, £612 deposit, 6,000 mile per year limit. The Duster is really affordable that it's more likely to appeal to many drivers considering financing pre-owned car, because it's cheaper to invest in than a 4-year-old, 15,000 mile entry-level version in the previous Duster. Despite the fact that having a cheaper cash price and like a much less appealing car. The verdict. You'd expect a £50,000 car being comfortable, well-equipped, nicely styled and pleasant they are driving. But to have all of those things from a vehicle that is obtainable from under £10,000, with very great value finance, is much more impressive. So much so that is an auto well worth considering in case you ignore the small pricing. The Duster isn't perfect, the ride is usually a bit smoother, by way of example, but Dacia has chosen the corners to slice to allow the reduced headline prices wisely, passing on far wider appeal than its predecessor. Dacia Duster SUV Review. Petrol 4x2 feels nippier than figures suggest. Diesel offers greatest on-paper acceleration. Diesel must provide strongest in-gear punch. Just 3 engine and transmission options are offered initially, a two-wheel drive, 5-speed manual 1.6-liter petrol, a similar engine having a 6-speed manual and 4-wheel drive, including a two-wheel drive, 6-speed manual 1.5-liter diesel. The 1.6-liter petrol produces 115 horsepower and 156 Nm of torque, whilst the Dacia diesel matches it for power but produces a lot more low-down muscle, with 260 Nm of torque. Fastest of these will be the diesel, which accelerates from 0.62 miles per hour in the reasonable 10.5 seconds and may keep going until 111 miles per hour. Next in line may be the two-wheel drive 1.6-liter petrol, 0.62 miles per hour rises in 11.9 seconds. Community feels more responsive than that figure suggests, topping out at 107 miles per hour. In relation to its Dacia Duster performance, slowest could be the 4-wheel drive petrol. Any additional 100 kilograms of 4-wheel drive mechanicals ensures that even with 6 gears and shorter gearing, a thing that normally boosts acceleration, this version requires 12.9 seconds heading to 62 miles per hour from the standstill. The top speed falls to 105 miles per hour. While not fast, the petrol engine is quiet enough to figure hard without feeling strained, along with the gearbox is extremely slick, rendering it a satisfying car to operate a vehicle. As a consequence, regularly being forced to use the throttle's full travel and changing gear regularly on faster roads is not any hardship, especially considering the amount of cheaper it is compared to the diesel. We're yet to push the diesel on tarmac, but off-road it felt impressively refined for this kind of cheap car, coupled with a similarly slick gearbox on the petrol. A turbocharged 130 horsepower petrol is likely to come to the oncoming of 2019. Providing the pricing isn't an excessive amount of above the 1.6-liter petrol, This is more likely to be the pick in the range, offering stronger acceleration, reasonable fuel economy, therefore we imagine lower pricing versus the diesel. Dacia is additionally planning to introduce a mechanical gearbox to the diesel engine, although it hopes to build up one for at least among the petrol models too, though there isn't a date with this at the time of writing. Steering now lighter but less precise. Perfectly competent around corners. Easier to maneuver out. The Duster is especially easy to push and maneuver thanks into a new power steering system, though this lacks the body weight and precision on the previous car when on faster roads. There's nothing wrong while using new setup, although it doesn't provide the best idea of the amount grip the leading tires have when cornering at higher speeds. Despite this, the total amount between comfort and road holding is well judged for the majority of drivers, as being the Duster is untaxing they are driving. Parking is similarly basic and it handles tidily enough around bends. Yes, should you carry an excessive amount of speed through low-speed corners, the steadiness control cuts in abruptly to limit power when you reach the relatively low limit of front-end traction. The suspension within reason soft, but keeps our bodies in check reasonably well through turns. Aiding this could be the fact which the Duster is fairly lightweight with an SUV in this size, so while it's not been designed being thrown around corners, it shouldn't allow you to get into trouble either. Meanwhile, the Duster is a lot more capable motocross than most drivers could ever want. Ground clearance for four-wheel drive versions is often a decent 210mm to 205mm for two-wheel drive models. With short overhangs it's surprisingly capable over rough terrain. The four-wheel drive system provides good traction. The soil clearance is enough for all, however, the most challenging surfaces, and it's possible to own hill descent control for safe downhill progress off-road. The only area, the location where the Duster tangibly lags behind much more serious off-roaders, is from the level of water it might wade through. That's capped at 350mm. Venture deeper than this, therefore you might end with soggy carpets, as being the door seals aren't designed just for this level of immersion. While not a towing car, because of its relatively light in weight and not too powerful engines, the Duster is often a better tow car than anything vaguely similarly priced. The two-wheel drive 1.6-liter petrol can haul 1,400 kilograms of brake trailer, with all the four-wheel drive petrol and two-wheel drive diesel raising that to just 1,500 kilograms. This compares with less than 800 kilograms for that far pricier Fiat 500X to just 1,200 kilograms to the Terrano, 1,300 kilograms for that Kia Soul. 1,200 kilograms for your 1.6-liter petrol Suzuki Vitara, though a reliable 1,500 kilograms to the diesel. The only affordable model that poses real competition towards the Duster at launch may be the Sitka, which could tow 1,500 kilograms in entry-level petrol form and 1,700 kilograms while using 115 horsepower diesel engine beneath the bonnet. Attractive, easy touch dashboard. Touchscreen media system good. Many design cues stolen from pricier cars. Avoid the super basic entry-level access model, which does end not using a radio, aircon, split folding rear seats, plus the Duster comes with a spacious, usable interior with considerably more kit than you'd expect for that money. Yes. A couple parts, such as extremely scratchy and ugly carpets, feel more suited into a cheap bed and breakfast than an auto, but considering the amount of machine you get to the money along with the decent selection of standard equipment, even this can be a very small criticism. More than this, all of the touch points, for example the wheel, seats, gear stick and dashboard controls, feel manufactured to last and are also of a reasonable quality too. Better still, Dacia has liberally stolen design cues from your number of far pricier machines. The dashboard shape looks suspiciously a lot like the Land Rover Discovery Sport, even though the horizontal row of switches mimics that with the Mercedes GLC among others, plus the rotary climate control dials having a digital temperature display from the middle standard on top-spec versions only resemble those inside Audi Q5. Considering that this Duster costs half these desirable premium models, Dacia renders a savvy move by nabbing a few of their design elements. That's because instead of just as being a practical car bought on cost alone, support make the Duster an auto people may wish to own in its own right, having its stylish cabin now living as much as the bold exterior. Most with the controls are an easy task to navigate. Whether you go searching for a model with AC or climate control, you receive 3 rotary controls for fan speed, temperature and where you can direct air. Wheel-mounted audio controls keep it uncomplicated to tune the air, jump tracks or alter the volume, plus the touchscreen media product is pretty an easy task to use with big on-screen buttons. There are simply a few quirks, including an idiotically located change to choose between cruise control and speed limiter functions, which sits close to the handbrake. This is far out of sight when driving, which makes it particularly distracting to discover. Thankfully, the driver's seat and wheel are within a much better position. With a great deal more seat height adjustment than before, there were no issues locating a comfortable driving position using a good view in the road ahead. Much improved seats and good driving position. Adequate space within rows of seats. Light steering and reasonably comfy ride. Considering the retail price, Dacia Duster comfort levels are good. The ride is generally smooth, compliant and quiet in comfort trim, such as 16-inch alloy wheels, the identical size as entry-level access and mid-level essential models. Yes, the Duster bobs around a bit on rough tarmac, nonetheless it deals with bumps effectively, is extremely comfortable on smooth roads and throws up little tire noise. There is a good amount of road noise at motorway speeds, though never to disruptive levels. Step around Prestige specification, so you can expect a rather firmer ride simply because this gets 17-inch alloy wheels, meaning an inch more metal and inch less rubber between you plus the road. Helping to boost comfort levels are seats that supply much greater support compared to previous Duster. These offer good spine support plus reasonable side support for holding you set up around corners. As a low-cost car, the Duster does feel more basic inside compared to a number of rivals, though Dacia has been doing a good job of boosting how much sound deadening compared to using its predecessor for the small price hike. Consequently, the Duster feels a great deal more refined on the trail than you'd expect for a real cheap car, without requiring much engine noise on the 1.6-liter petrol and little wind noise. Work the petrol engine hard, while you must to summon up strong acceleration because of this motor, especially mainly because it only has 5 gears, and it really is quite loud, though this can be nothing out with the ordinary and perfectly acceptable for the Duster's sale price. More problematic is the fact that both petrol and diesel models share precisely the same rev counter, which will show how hard it is possible to work the engine. However, inexplicably the rev counter doesn't show the engine's maximum speeds for the dial, rendering them both pointless. Since the diesel engine's maximum speed is reached barely halfway across the dial, without indication showing where that may be, drivers are very likely to work the engine harder compared to what they would otherwise, kicking up more noise from the process. Entry-level access features hardly any equipment. Essential and comfort offer good balance, worthwhile in kit. Prestige hikes up price with mostly aesthetic extras. Dacia Duster SUV equipment. The basic Duster includes not much kit, although range-topping models are filled with desirable tech, including side event parking cameras. Dacia Duster access equipment. Bar electric front windows, a height-adjustable tire speed limiter and something-piece folding rear seat bench. The entry-level access has almost no kit. Yes, it can do have wiring for just a radio, but considering all on the other models include this as standard, should you want a radio and speakers, we'd recommend simply getting any with the other trim levels. Dacia Duster essential equipment. The essential version adds a raft of extra kit including 16-inch hubcaps, body-colored front and back bumpers, front fog lights, manual AC, height-adjustable driver's seat, 6040 split folding rear seats, FMANDAB radio tuner, steering wheel mounted audio controls, Bluetooth, O input and USB connection. Dacia Duster comfort equipment. Comfort models convey a significant amount of apparatus over comfort models, for example 16-inch alloy wheels, electric-aided wing mirrors, trip computer, electric rear windows, glovebox light and front passenger watching light, passenger sun visor mirror, touchscreen media system with SatNav, rear parking camera and reversing sensors. Dacia Duster Prestige equipment. Topping the product range is Prestige trim, which adds this 17-inch alloy wheels, partial leather upholstery, climate control, multi-view parking cameras with sensors, blind spot detectors. Dacia Duster SUV, optional extras. Few optional extras can be obtained, though you may get metallic paint, Western European mapping to the SatNav, leather upholstery and also a spare wheel for two-wheel drive models. Many more accessories can be obtained, though. These include a security alarm, parking sensors, tow bar and mini pack switch bundled different bits together. Only scores 3 stars in European crash test. New test exacting than previous versions. Duster discounted for absence of crash avoidance kit. Dacia Duster safety is usually a story of two halves. The Duster is sold with ABS, stability control, front and side airbags and blind spot detectors that flag if there are any cars alongside you hidden inside the blind spot. However, it lacks kit that is certainly standard on pricier rivals, for instance automatic emergency braking, which dramatically limits its crash test rating. As an end result, the Duster only receives a 3-star Euro NCAP crash test rating compared to 5 stars with the smaller Hyundai Kona, although the closely related Kia Stonic only scored 3, as did the budget-focused MG-ZS. This signifies that the Duster lags behind pricier models who do a better job of preventing being involved in the crash from the first place. However, although you may ignore the clever crash avoidance kit, the Dacia does a notably worse job of protecting adults within the front and children from the rear versus the smaller Terrano and Hyundai Kona Kia Stonic. While the Duster just isn't unsafe, a great number of alternatives will continue you out of trouble inside first place and make you better protected when you do have this brief. How many ICE-fixed child seats can I fit in a very Dacia Duster SUV? ICE-fixed child seats could be fitted on the Duster's outer rear seats, though should you want to fit any more child seats, you have to use another mounting system to secure them constantly in place. Watch Dacia Duster SUV Euro NCAP crash test. Tons of space to the price. Lots of boot room, though slightly narrow. enough room within the rear for 3 adults. 5 people are able to fit from the Dacia Duster without an excessive amount of trouble, though larger adults won't be too happy inside middle with the Duster's rear bench on longer journeys. Knee-room for rear passengers can be somewhat tight too, if those inside the front possess the seat moved each of the way back. Boot space, about the other hand, is good for your size of car, therefore you shouldn't will have luggage overflowing in the boot to the cabin. Despite its SUV billing, the Duster feels relatively small and simple to maneuver. The high driving position gives an excellent view in the road ahead, plus the rear visibility is preferable to it looks on the wide rear pillars and small windows. As an outcome, when you go for any Duster which has a reversing camera under parking sensors, you shouldn't have several issues parking. The boot is long but relatively narrow and has now a bit of unlipped lift luggage over, making loading just a little trickier PC could be. Meanwhile, corner seats don't fold flat either. This signifies that if you anticipate to slide large loads every one of the way into your boot and on the seat backs, you'll need to use some muscle to lift them above the large bump expressed by the base from the seat back. Go to get a 4-wheel drive Duster and boot space tumbles from 445 liters to 411 with all the rear seats set up. If a spare wheel is equipped, that falls further to 376 liters. In regards to absolute volume for Dusters fitted with 4-wheel drive, that stands at 1,559 liters when a spare is outfitted and 1,614 liters without.